So we will go ahead and start the introduction to this session. We're moving on with the awards for the student chapters, and this next round is for the Mentoring Award and the Outreach Awards. So these are specific awards that your chapter can apply for up and above the just you're a really great chapter award. The way that you apply for these awards is you submit a chapter development report. So every chapter has the opportunity to submit what they've been doing and be considered for these awards. And if you have anything in particular exciting in the outreach or the mentoring areas, those are separate special awards that you can be recognized for. And so we'll hear some best practices and some examples of that today. But I think it's important. I mean, for the most part, this, again, it's more work for you. But as a student chapter, I don't think that we really get a chance to see everything that you as students are doing or new things that you're doing in these areas, simply because the chapter development reports, they're due at the end of the semester. It's a little bit more work. There's formatting standards and guidelines. It's like a final report. It's really just awful to have to do. But if you collect it along the way and you incorporate that into your chapter development report structure, this committee's in charge of that. Just make one page, take some pictures. It's not too hard to just assemble over the course of the semester. So I would encourage you to do that. It really helps. That way it's not considered like some kind of final exam at the end. We are here to recognize Ohio State for the Outstanding Mentoring Award, and I'll let you take the stage.
Awesome. All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out. We are the Ohio State chapter of BMES, and we were the mentor award, or we were awarded the Mentoring Achievement Award, and we're here to tell you a little bit about our mentorship program and some of our best practices. So, some quick introductions of who we are. My name's Alex Setnar. I'm the current president. Furthest from me is Dave Youssef. He's our VP of Internal Affairs, and closest to me is Bernie Cook, and he's our Vice President of External Affairs. And all of our contact information's there, but you can get that from us afterwards if you'd like to catch up and learn more. But moving on, so what to expect and what we're going to tell you about. So first, some of our motivation and goals, our committee structure and how we work, what we actually do as a mentorship program, and then our future directions and improvements and how we're moving forward. So I think it's very important to make sure you have like a motto or an objective for your group, and ours is that we strive to create a network that establishes unity and growth socially, academically, and professionally throughout the undergraduate experience. So make sure you have something that you go to. Like, we base a lot of our events, they'll be social, academic, and professional development. So this is definitely our guideline and our go-to. So if you're trying to start a mentorship program, you have to make sure there's value. So whenever you come here, like, what's going to sell people? Why would they even do mentorship? So looking at this, we made a very nice Venn diagram. So I don't know, as an engineer, pictures work much better than words for me. But yeah, so as a mentee, it's pretty obvious. Like, you get to learn from your mentor, someone who's already gone through the process. They've gotten into the major, they've gone through the classes, they've adjusted to college. So there's so much a mentee can learn, and all they have to do is ask. But as a mentor, that's a little bit harder. Like, what do you get out of this? You get a leadership position. Teaching is not the easiest thing to do, and this is one of those first trials that you get to actually teach. If you're looking at being a TA, it's like, oh, how can I manifest and show everything that I've learned? And in the middle, both people, they get to network and learn from each other, so it helps build new bonds and lines of communication among all the years of your program. That way it's not just seniors that talk to each other. You're trying to network the seniors with the freshmen, with the sophomores, and with the juniors. So, yeah, and it goes through that, and it's also just a way to grow your program and build all those lines of communication. So our committee hierarchy, it's very similar to the way our executive board is set up. So we have our internal VP, and he is the head, and that's actually Dave, but yeah, he's the head of the committee that we have for mentorship. So we have a separate committee, and we have a junior coordinator, sophomore coordinator, and 2 freshman leaders. So yeah, basically what they do is they all work together, and they put on all these mentorship programs. They're almost like their own separate committee that just solves all these problems and comes up with new ways to mentor between the mentors and the mentees. But yeah, and this is really a great way to build leadership and experience for the future. So whenever officers, and we have our officer elections coming up, it's a great way for everyone to see, oh, can I actually handle a leadership position? How can I get involved? Like, this is where you start. So yeah, as we're trying to develop and foster leadership growth, we have progressive a progressive increase in responsibilities. So first off, we're not going to have you running full-blown huge research conferences and huge programs. It's going to be simple. It's like, oh, take care of a Coke grant, take care of reserving a room, and just these small tasks, and it builds up over time to the point where you're running your own event, and it's independent coordinating. So, and this also builds awareness of the university policies, just how does it work with reserving a room, all the little ins and outs of just running a program at Ohio State, and for your perspective, or for each of your own individual schools. But yeah, like I mentioned, like this is huge. This is how I came up to be the president. This is how I think Bernie and Dave both came through the program of mentorship, and to make sure that we have people who are qualified and gonna continue to make BMES a success at Ohio State. So I'm gonna hand off to Bernie, and he's gonna go on.
All right, thank you, Alex. Okay, so when it comes to our pairing process, we generally divide this up into 2 different tiers. So we have the traditional freshman and sophomore paired with a junior and senior pairing, because the freshmen and sophomores, they're new to the school. They kind of need to learn the ins and outs of the university, and they're also going to need some sort of guidance academically and socially. And the juniors and seniors obviously have already gone through those experiences, and they're able to offer their perspective and their advice into getting to where they're at. Additionally, in the past couple of years, we've developed the grad students and undergrad mentor-mentee pairing, where juniors and seniors who serve as mentors are able to sort of get 2 sides of the benefit. So they get benefit as leading and being mentors to the underclassmen, but they also get advice from graduate students. And this is generally for the juniors and seniors who are most interested in going to graduate school. So when we pair the people, we tend to pair them based on career plans. So in pairing mentors and mentees, we'll pair them based on whether or not they want to go to industry, whether or not they're pre-med, or whether or not they are pre-grad. And then in addition to that, we'll pair them based on domain interests. So that comes down to what specific interests within biomedical engineering they have, whether it's biomaterials, biomechanics, bioimaging, et cetera. And then there's some cases in which we're not able to pair a mentor with a mentee based on just these 2 things, because we'll have like a mentor that pairs up well with 2 different mentees. And so we further divide it by hobbies, because we feel as if this is going to be like a good talking point and a good way to break the ice between the 2 and further develop that communication between mentor and mentee. So when it comes to our pairing process, traditionally we've used PowerPoint. So we'll have mentors submit what we call a mentorship profile. And in the PowerPoint, they'll list everything that I had just mentioned above, their career plans, their domain interests, and their hobbies. And they'll pair that with a picture. And then once the deadline comes for mentorship or mentor applications, we'll compile a big PowerPoint, put that together with all of the mentor profiles, send that out to the mentees, and then have the mentees look through it and let us know which mentor they'd be interested in being paired up with. But there's a couple of outstanding mentors that we'll get every year. that, a handful of 5 mentees will end up trying to be paired with. So in order to avoid that and be able to come up with like a 1-to-1 ratio of mentors to mentees, we sort of transition to the Google form, where we ask the same questions as above and then get all the data within a Google form, and then we just go through a selection process, and we'll pair mentors and mentees based on what I had mentioned above. And that way we're not stuck with 5 mentees interested in one certain mentor. And then sometimes the mentors and mentees, the matches just won't work out. They might be compatible based on their domain interests or their career interests, but for whatever reason, they might just not get along. So these matches are flexible. And if mentees ever have a problem with their mentor or vice versa, they'll come talk to us and we'll switch that around. So the mentor is supposed to serve as just sort of an open resource for all of the mentees. This also works for mentees who may have indicated that they're pre-med, but they might be a little bit more interested in learning about grad school, and their pre-med mentor might not know as much about going into grad school as their current one. So flexibility helps in ensuring that we provide the most value to our members. Events and activities, we usually divide it into professional development, academic insight, and socials. So in past years, we've always gone through with a resume review, just so freshmen and sophomores are able to sort of tailor their resume to what engineering recruiters are going to be looking for. And additionally, we'll host an interview preparation prior to our engineering career fair in the fall that has sort of mock interviews, so people are able to practice selling themselves prior to the engineering career fair. We have mentor-led panels every year, and one of the main ones is research advice. So we'll have a panel of student researchers come in and talk about what sort of research they do, how they got involved in that research, and just sort of give a perspective on how to reach out to principal investigators and get involved in some sort of a lab. And then every year we have plenty of socials, and that just kind of helps develop the community outside of school. So last year we went on a ski trip. It's a lot of fun, and we were able to get about 20 members to come out. We've also done tailgates, and then this year I believe we're considering having a bowling event, a college bowling night. But this is certainly open to whatever interests are most prevalent within your group. When it comes to creating a mentorship program, one of the main things is being able to figure out what sort of value you can provide to your members and find out, I guess, how that differs school to school. So in our case, at the end of freshman year, freshmen have to apply to get in the biomedical engineering major. So their biggest concern freshman year is getting into the major and wanting to know how to put together a solid application and sort of develop that. So it's just all about capitalizing what's in demand. Kind of sounds a little bit too business related, but in this case, that's how we provide value to our members. And then also it's key to generating and maintaining interest. So passing along to Dave Youssef.
All right. Once again, I'm Dave Youssef. I'll be talking about the new practices we're putting into effect this year. So one of the main things we're doing is providing a study tables, and what this is sort of like, imagine like for a class that you had, a TA maybe provided a review for an exam, but in this case we're going to have mentors that have taken the related BME course and provide this sort of review or at least question and answer so that one, the people taking the class can benefit and further find value in BMES, as well as the mentors gaining leadership experience that is sort of related to teaching, but in a different way. So they're not teaching mentees about the BME program. They're teaching mentees and fellow mentors the content they need to succeed in this class. And once again, this sort of encourages upperclassmen to stay in BMES. So once they're done being a mentee and they can either be a mentor or become an officer, if they're not interested in either, they can still gain from BMES by going to these study tables. Another way we're trying to expand the mentorship program is doing a mentor database. So what this basically is manifesting what Bernie was talking about. So with the example of a pre-med student interested in graduate school, you could sort of provide a structure by using the information from your mentor information and create a profile, sort of like the PowerPoints that they did in the past, that the mentees can reference in order to see, oh, this person is doing is planning on doing graduate school, and they're in this research lab. I want to send them an email and hear about what they did in order to get to this position. And sort of along the same lines is an alumni mentor database. So we're going to reach out to alumni and see where they ended up and get their contact information as well. And what this will provide is another resource for mentors and mentees to learn about what they can do as an undergrad in order to get to where these people are. So how they got into medical school, how they got into a BME company, how they got into a good graduate program, things like that. So they can ask them what courses they took, what involvements they're in, so that they can sort of mimic that and learn about what they can do. So sort of going off what Bernie was saying also is evolving your chapter. So we try to form our mentorship program in order to mimic, or in order to accommodate what our chapter needed. So we found that freshmen needed advice for getting into the major, so we provided that. We found that upperclassmen weren't as interested in staying involved, so we provided reasons for them to stay involved. So we think that, sort of relating back to biology, form follows function. So if you form your program to accommodate the needs, the function will follow and people will actually want to stay. So we'd like to say thank you to our advisor, Mark Rugsager, our department chair, Dr. Hart, who's also the national president, the previous executive boards for providing a solid foundation for us to keep the mentorship program running well, and as well as Elizabeth De Silva and National BMES. Do you have any questions? Yeah.
So what did you find as like the biggest challenges in actually setting up this whole program? Because we are looking into like starting a whole mentorship program, and it seems like initially it seems kind of overwhelming. We have like an idea, but how did you like ensure that would occur, and what were some challenges in facing that process?
I think a key thing is emphasizing the value that each person is getting. So emphasize that mentors, you're getting leadership, as well as mentees, of course, getting guidance with how they can succeed in their program. And I think if you provide something similar to like the alumni database so that mentors also have a reason to get involved, it would help, just because as people, we always look for what's going to add value in our life or in our career. So that's very important too, seeing how they should invest their time in BMES. Yep.
I have two questions. The first is, how do you evaluate the success of your program, mentoring program, and what metrics do you consider to be the most important when evaluating the quality of mentoring?
As far as metrics go, I don't believe we take much more than just like attendance in events. And evaluating success, I would just say, going back to attendance, just making sure people are still going to things and wanting to get involved, because in the past we've noticed that people sort of trail off as the semester goes on because they have midterms and finals and things like that. But we want people to say that this provides value in my time here as an undergrad, and we want to encourage them to keep coming to events. So just keeping track of that.
And going off of that, like, we can tell because if people want to stay involved, like, they're applying for more positions, like, it feeds back. So we can definitely see, like, how interested people are in the program. And if they come back next year, like, some people are really fired up. They're like, oh, I can't wait to be a mentor. Or, like, I got so much out of being a mentee. So, and we hear that.
Information for they're getting internships, research experiences on campus, or presenting posters or anything like that.
I mean, whole retention rate, you consider looking at the retention rate of students?
Yeah.
in
Well,
the
that's,
program?
yeah, we were going off of, like, yeah, so how many members we have each year.
No, I'm talking about the retention rate of students matriculating into the junior year or sophomore year, junior year, not transferring to chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical, biology.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty consistent, like.
Yeah, we haven't been explicitly keeping track of those things, but I guess we do sort of see trends and that sort of thing. But I guess that'd be a good thing in order to implement, just to sort of help determine the success of our program. Yep.
Do you guys implement any like training for the mentors? If you did, what techniques did you use?
So for mentor training, it's mostly just giving suggestions on things to ask. So saying, oh, you should ask them about how they're studying for finals to make sure they have good study habits and things like that. So it's more suggestions rather than a formal training program. Yep.
So how do you actually determine who is an undergraduate student? Because, for example, if you have a first-year student who might be considered a sophomore or junior, they're only given 2 more years until they graduate. How do you determine, who's at a certain level?
I think that's definitely a case-by-case basis, like, or like how long have you actually been at college? Like, is this still your first year you're at college living there? And what are you trying to learn? Because we also have some people that they take on both roles. They're also, like, if they're a sophomore, they're like, oh, I really want to talk to freshmen. Like, I feel like that's still fresh in my mind, this whole experience of going and trying to get into the major. But I still want to learn. Like, I still want to have a mentor, so. Yeah, it's very case by case. So.
Yep.
Do you have a required time commitment or a specific amount of events that each mentor mentee needs to attend?
No, it's mostly as you can. Yep. I think she was first.
Yeah. How do you keep your upperclassmen involved and like eager to come after
We have had the kind of issue in the past maintaining upperclassmen interest. The study tables is a way to do that because a lot of the classes that we do that for are like the junior and senior level classes. So it's a reason for them to come and attend, and then they sort of see that the value they're getting in BMES, and hopefully they'd want to give back after that and contribute to that. Do like maybe a study table for a class that they've taken, or take in a mentee just so that they can help that mentee grow and do well as a BME.
And that's also why we're trying to do the grad mentors and the alumni mentors as well. So they're looking at their next step, and there's someone who can provide that guidance. So yeah.
So in addition to the individual one-on-one matching, one thing that we're doing here this year, piloting out this concept of family mentoring, compiling groups of these mentor-mentee pairs together into a larger group and encouraging them to meet. I was just curious if you guys have considered that, or if you have any thoughts on that concept.
I think that's a good idea. I think we don't do it ourselves, but I feel like that would be good, especially if it was a larger mentorship program, in order to help make it a little bit of a smaller community that you can go to in general. Do you tend to divide that among career paths or interests, or is it just sort of random in a way?
If there's specialties and things like that.
Okay, all right. It's a good idea.
You've been praising me
Yeah, I was
guys.
gonna ask more of a logistical standpoint of attendance. Like we just started our mentorship program this year, so like our first couple events for mentors and mentees have been just at our general body meetings, like the second half of the meeting. But from a logistical standpoint, like sometimes a mentor doesn't attend or a mentee doesn't attend, and they've come just for that, and they're like literally left sitting alone, as in the pairing requires two people. So I don't know if you guys have run into that issue.
Yeah, I'm trying to think how we meet that. Like, a lot of people, they also have multiple mentors, so it's not like they just have the one. So there's a good chance of more than one person being there. But I think we try and also, we try and have the mentor and the mentee meet individually as well. So like, in case for some reason the schedule doesn't work out for a certain semester with classes, like, we encourage them to get lunch and to like really have a dialogue that they have through email or text as well. I'm trying to think.
As well as, I think a lot of our like explicit mentorship events aren't necessarily like pairing up. So it's just a group of us going out to see a hockey game or to talk about research. So it's not exactly you two do this together and you're competing or something against another pair. It's just you have more mentors to ask. So if you're maybe thinking about grad school or something and you're pre-med, you could say, oh, I remember seeing that you are thinking about going to graduate school. Could you tell me about what you're doing in order to make that happen? So it's nothing, like we have the pairings mostly for outside of BMES explicit events, just as a resource. Yep.
What was the size of your program when you started mentorship?
It's hard to say because our,
Sure. We weren't there whenever it actually started.
yeah, it was back in 2012, so
Yeah.
we do have an alumni in the room if he wants to.
About 30 of each.
Yeah.
30 vendors, 30 vendors. We verify.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, I forgot to mention it, but whenever I was showing the hierarchy, like, the reason why we have the junior, the sophomore, and the freshman coordinators is so they're that point of contact as well. Like, they're actually in the classes, they're making friends with the people of their year. So, not to say they guilt them into coming, but like, in the last, like, moment, they're like, oh, like, these are my actual friends, like, you better come to the programs, like, join us, like, and then it just kind of builds from there. Like, it encourages, more people to come and to join mentorship.
In the back.
How do you deal with recruitment? How would you improve it?
Kind of talking about it earlier. So during our involvement fair and our first general body meeting, we definitely emphasize the value of mentorship. We talk about how people involved in the mentorship program often take on the leadership roles in our e-board, as well as the value added in terms of guidance and leadership as being a mentor or leading us study tables or things like that.
And you also want to have, like, we try and, like, blast everyone with socials as well. Like, show them why it's fun. Like, you're also trying to get something out of BMES, but you want to have a good time and also enjoy it. Like, meet some cool people. Like, there's people that do more than just studying and learning biomedical engineering. They actually have hobbies, they have personal lives. So you're just trying to connect them and really build new relationships. So yeah, I think it's great to have the socials, and yeah, it's a great way to start it off before you actually start mentoring.
Any other questions? All right, thank you again.
So our next presentation is going to be by University of Texas, Arlington, in the area of outstanding outreach. Outreach is one of those up and above kind of things. You have enough to do on your campus and with your students, and finding time to go out and find others to interact with and educate and excite it's a passion that some of us have, and others just don't even know how to get started. So, University of Texas.
All right, so my name is Alyssa Hendricks. I am the president of our chapter at the University of Texas at Arlington, and this is Faizan Madami. He is in charge of all of our industry relations. So I figure most of y'all don't have any idea where Arlington, Texas is. It's towards the northern side. It's in the DFW area. It's pretty much where the Cowboys little spaceship stadium's at. We have the Rangers, Six Flags. Apparently we have a bowling museum. And right across from our university, the city has opened this pavilion with a giant field where throughout the entire summer, every weekend, they have free concerts. So our university is apparently, as they brag about in every brochure that they can get it in, is the 5th most diverse university in the nation. It's a really rapidly growing university. I think this fall we're about at 35,000 students. Whenever I started, it was only at 30,000, so, or 28. So they have a 6% growth in students just from last year. And currently the College of Engineering just this past couple years broke into the top 100 universities. And then so for the bioengineering department itself, we have a brand new building that just opened in 2012. It's in that circle. It's brand new, top state of the art. We also have a nanofab research building that we use a lot. Our department started in 1974 with PhD, master's, and the 5-year tracks for bachelor's and a master's degree, but only just started the undergrad degree in 2012, where the first senior class is actually just graduating this May. So in terms of what this kind of means towards the BMES chapter, with undergrads being some of the more active members in organizations, the fact that we only have a small handful of undergrads has made getting our organization functional kind of difficult. So he's actually going to talk to some about our organization in general.
Yeah, so when we started, there were people actually coming up to us asking for refunds from last year. So we did not start on a very good note, and we had $0 in funding because the previous president transferred to something else, and the professor quit or some. So we started with 0 members and $0 in, and a few asking for a refund. Yeah. So she was actually with SWE, the Society of Women Engineers, before this. So she actually took it upon herself to actually get this started again and have elections, because officers were getting selected just because they were the president's friend. So we had formal elections in fall 2014 and started afresh, and we then never looked back. So yeah. So our goals are specifically these: have industry connections, get students involved, because majority of our course is graduate students. They're not interested in socials and stuff, but more of industry and how to connect with industry and stuff. So we can go ahead and see what, yeah. So these are our officers. We have the executive officers, which take up the major roles, and the chairs, which actually have specific events taken care of, and the chairs represent, report to the executive officers. And so you can see, like, the orange is, the names in orange, oh, it's hard to see, but the names in orange are the graduate students, so that's the majority of our members. And so as we started with no money, we were excessively fundraising, having donut sales, bake sales, stuff like that. But our major chunk of the biggest first funding came from this E-Week challenge that we had in our school, which was interdepartment thing. And the topic was make something which reduces energy consumption, and like something in your field, and it reduces energy consumption. So we made a poster, run a few simulations, and won $600 for this, as we came in first. So that this kind of motivated us to do a lot more things in the future. Then we did a lot of, that Texas does not have a lot of biomedical companies, but we still went out and spoke to a few companies around, like Alcon and Texas Instruments and the UT Southwestern Medical School and Research Center. So we, and after we did some tours, Alcon actually came up to us and offered internships for summer for students. So that again invited, like, got a lot of interest from people in the department, and got some funding from the department as well. And the next thing we started was software workshops, and professional development series. We had a lot of complaints from students about not having enough knowledge about these basic softwares, and these are very important in biomedical engineering specifically. So we got some students who are experts at these, and had them take like 3-hour, 4-hour sessions every weekend for the whole of this semester, for students who are interested. And fine.
All right, so now I'm going to try to talk about our outreach program that we did. So he kind of covered all of the fun stuff that is not very hard to convince people to participate in. But so with the fact that this time last year, we had pretty much negative members and negative funds. When looking into starting all of our events, we were trying to come up with the most sustainable events, things that if the next set of officers who come in are not as motivated to get stuff done, and then we don't want the organization to fade back out. We want to kind of keep our hard work strong. So in starting this program, our biggest thing was to create some sort of outreach program that could be held at least once a year, that is easy to start up, that it's not going to have a lot of effort on whatever student is helping get it organized. And because we were also out of money, we also wanted to kind of try to find some sort of funding for our event. And there's kind of the basic of outreach programs is to get interest in the younger generations in the community interested in the STEM fields. So we were aiming for the students that were younger than high school level, because we figured that would be the easiest and cheapest options to go with. So in organizing our event, we started out by pretty much just sending this flyer out to all of the schools in the area that had 5th through 8th grade students, and the entire city of Arlington and the 2 cities just next to it. So it ended up being 120 schools that we just mass sent emails to, inviting them to this. We just sent it to the principals that we were hey, we're a student organization at our university, and would you mind passing this to your advanced courses, or just any of your students who might be interested, so to help get the word out through there. And of course, because it's with children, we also had to have a registration form, which was pretty much emergency contacts, liability, and all of that kind of thing. So in the actual event, because we're trying to make it like sustainable, we're trying to like take baby steps to get there. We started out with just like having a like 5-hour event like on a Saturday morning. So we did about 4 projects where like we had a couple extra ideas. So like when we repeat it, we're gonna like rotate through events to where students might actually want to like come back repeated years. But what we pretty much did was like we actually handed out this direction. Like each of our projects had like a little like bullet points of list. So that way each group of students could actually kind of do their own project. So they could actually like make their own innovations to it, make their own ideas. So like a popsicle tower, we just basically told them like, here's a bag that has like 400 popsicle sticks, a roll of masking tape, like build it as tall as you want to, but it has to be able to stand on its own and support a water balloon. So like they all had to like do their own thing. But like we also had done the mousetrap car, a slingshot rocket, and like the penny bridge. So like each of those had the same kind of setup. And I just liked this picture because this kid was so excited to build this tower, he wanted to take a selfie with it. So, and then at the end to like kind of incorporate some like actual learning to the event, not just like a fun day of playing with popsicles. Like we kind of like forced all of the kids to sit there and kind of like have like a group discussion where like we asked them to like, what do you like they think that is engineering? And like so we can kind of get an idea of like what they know and what we can kind of like help them figure out that like engineering isn't just for scary stuff with people who just want to make explosions and love math. And then we just went through like each project that we did, like asking them like, what were the biggest problems? Because if any of y'all have ever made like a mousetrap car, you know there's a lot of problems that can come up with that. Like some of them like had their cars like doing like backflips instead of driving. So like we were asking them like, what did they think was the biggest problem? And then because like each project, even if like someone's like car was doing a backflip, somebody else's car could go 20 feet down the hallway. So it was, what do you think was like the like optimal design for each of the projects? So like we were like helping them like kind of think through like the problems so they could like work in the future. And then because we still wanted to kind of sell like engineering, especially bioengineering, we always asked them like at the end like, what kind of fields of engineering do you know about? Like, are there people in your family who are engineering? Do you know what bioengineering is? And kind of talked about like what we do and all of that kind of stuff. And then kind of like the future of this event, like we're hoping to like now like to have it twice a year, where we have it like once in the fall and once in the spring. Because now that we have all of the general like logistics set up to where it's easy to repeat, it's pretty much, we have an Excel document with all the email addresses for the principals. We already have like all the flyers, so all we do is update all the dates and information and send it back out. And so we're actually planning to have it this October, which whenever we held it in the spring, we had reserved like 3 classrooms, and that held all of the students who came. This year there's so many more students who are interested in coming that we actually had to like reserve like the atrium at one of our buildings. So happy about that. And we're also trying to collaborate with some of the other like College of Engineering organizations, because it kind of helps get more like student volunteers and you get more ideas for like better projects to do. And then not this year, but maybe at some point in time, like increase like the like time of the event, because right now it's just like a 4 to 5 hour event like in the morning. And there's some like outreach events that like I would like to strive to that are like the whole day events where you can get through a lot more projects and like go more in depth into what you're doing. So that's actually all we have. You had a question?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm really impressed, you guys, that what you did is awesome, especially with the limited resources you guys have. It's really great.
Thanks.
So you guys invited 120 schools, and did you like get confirmation from people whether they were coming or not? Or did you
Yeah,
just-
so, because on the flyer we did like with the whole like, please RSVP to us to let us know. So, in sending it to like the 120 schools, we probably actually only heard back from about like 40 of the schools, where it would just be like the principal saying, oh yeah, this is a great idea, I would love to like pass this on to our students. And then from there only like 10 teachers would respond back, and then like a handful of the students' parents did. But that's why we sent it out to the 120 schools, because we know like it just quickly like chops off of people who just like ignore the emails. So, yeah.
How long did you allocate for like each event? So you said it was like 4 to 5 hours with like 4 projects, so maybe
Yeah.
an hour.
So it was about an hour for each project. That way, because on most of them, like up at the penny bridge, I don't know if you've ever done that, but it's pretty much how can you fold a piece of paper to hold as many pennies when you like balance it between like 2 textbooks before it like falls over. That project didn't take that much time. So like we had that be like our first project. That way, as people like came in late or like were like having to like check in and everything, starting late on that project wasn't going to be like hard on them. But yeah, so it was about an hour each. Yeah.
That's a really fun day. Do you guys have any plans to incorporate biomedical engineering challenges? Or
We kept-
the hands-on demos?
Yeah.
or the-
Well, like our whole thing though is like because we're trying to like make it like a challenge, like where it's like they can actually like somebody can leave like winning. Our problem is we're having trouble finding biomedical themed projects that are like cheap like popsicle sticks that can be done in an hour by 5th to 8th graders. So if you have any ideas, we would love to hear them.
One thing that we're working on now is we have a design competition that's kind of been ongoing several months, but the 7th and 8th graders that we're working with have been tasked to design a small device to help people write better with different writing impairments.
Mhm.
So it could be something that augments a pen or a pencil or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually in a class now at LSU where we translate our research we do in the lab to the 8th graders and like give them a design challenge. So if you want my information, I can send you what my class does. Because we have like whole like logs of what other people have done in the past.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
I have questions. How many members did you dedicate to the event?
It took about like 2 or 3 members like of the officers to like get all the logistics and like handling all the emails and reserving rooms. And then like the actual day of the event, we had about like 10 or 15 members that came to volunteer, and we just kind of like delegated them throughout to like help the different groups of students that were participating.
So you had one event going for everyone, for all the students, then to the next one?
Yeah, pretty much. That way we could keep it as like a challenge. So like doing like the popsicle tower, it was like everybody had an hour to do it, and then at the end of that hour, we could see like who had the tallest one and who could hold the actual water
We had
balloon.
point systems
Yeah.
for the winners.
We have like less than probably 10 active members. So if you were to say like how many members you think like at your entities to run it, what would you say?
I mean, you could easily run an outreach event with just like 4 members actually there, as long because this kind of students that are going to come to an outreach event that are like 5th to 8th graders, you're not going to get the ones that run in circles and like punch people. You're getting the like really nice, well-behaved kids, and like their parents are like the ones that are like encouraging them to get into engineering and like go to college campuses on their weekends. So, yeah.
What was the motivation to have winners? Like, why did you guys choose to have that model instead of more focusing on introducing biomechanics, bioinstrumentation?
I guess kind of just because we just figured little kids or like in that age group like to be competitive. It wasn't like the like first prize got like gift cards and like everybody else left with nothing. It was the difference of like the first place got like an actual Snickers bar and everybody else got like a sucker. So, yeah.
You guys consider flipping it, so instead of inviting students to your university and actually going to the schools themselves and teaching at the schools?
Yeah, like so I'm also with like the Society of Women Engineers, and like we do that, like we actually go to like some of the like schools and everything. It's just in trying to get something that's like sustainable and like repeatable in like future years, having it set up to like go to campuses, like go to like the middle school. If like the teacher that you're in contact with like retires or goes to another school, or that happens to like the principal or something, then like you're having to like remake those networks in the future. And it's kind of hard to see like if like the future of like our organization officers will be able to do that on their own. So, yeah.
You said you started out very broke and all of those things. I'm really curious as to how you built up your officers and that organization before you were able to start all of these events so quickly.
I guess we just kind of got really lucky because like, well, like in coming into like restarting the organization, like we did have like all like the basic foundations. Like we were on bad terms with the university, but like we were still like registered with them, so like we didn't have to like do all like the basic paperwork. But we did like get lucky. Like we had about like 13 or 14 students who really wanted to be a part of the student organization and really wanted to make it something. So like we had that group who wanted to put an effort, and that actually pretty much all of them became officers whenever we had elections. And then so like once we had that, like, so in the spring semester, we actually only had like 20 members who actually like showed up to everything, which was pretty much the officers and a couple of their friends that they drug along. So like having those events like in the spring, like it was kind of hard to like advertise to it, but like as like it kept going throughout the semester, it just became easier because then people were like, oh hey, BMES is actually doing fun stuff. They are actually like working. Maybe we can come check it out. And actually this semester we now have 150 members, which is half the department. So that was kind of very rapid growth.
50 paid national members.
Yeah, so, yes.
Do you think that has a significant part of retention, or what other events that you do might have the most impact on retention?
On retention?
Yeah.
Honestly, just based on like how like which students fight to go like to which events that we have, it's probably all of the events that we have with like the actual industry where we actually like go on like tours of their facilities, because it is like an opportunity for the students to like meet people who actually work there and like meet the managers and like kind of help get their name out there with networking. So like I know we just had a tour of just like Texas Instruments, and they told us we could have 15 students come, and we had like 45 students emailing us like to go. So I would say like that's probably our best thing in terms of like getting retention. Yes. Yes, and that was actually like our biggest fear, is especially in terms of like officers, because like most of our officers are master's students. So if they're there for 2 years, they're probably not going to be officers their first year, and then they'd be an officer their second year, and everything like they learned from being an officer they would take and leave. So our officer term, instead of going through the school year, is actually January through December. That way, the master's students who start in the fall, they have, and especially like with freshmen too, it gives them a semester to kind of find our organization, learn more about the school, and then they can be an officer for the next like full year. And then like the last year, so like an undergrad senior year or like a master's second year, their like last semester, they don't have the stress of being an officer of the organization, but they're still around so that whoever replaced them can still get a hold of them without having to like send like a dozen emails to ask for help. Yes?
Do you charge your members a fee? You said that someone took money back. So
Yeah.
fees, do you charge them a fee?
We had done like the $10 student membership like for like a school year, just as a way to like try to avoid having to do like countless donut sales and like lunch sales, because like as like engineering students, and like especially if you're doing like research or other student organizations, having the spare time to go sit at a fundraiser is kind of time consuming. And because like we are like the undergrad program at our school is very new, and like our organization is still very new, we don't have all the industry contacts to like get sponsorships from them. So that's currently we're charging $10. In the future, we would like to not have to charge membership, but for now, it's just our way of being able to maintain ourselves. Yes.
Have you considered, like, I'm assuming the program you run is free. Have you considered like, maybe charging $10 or something as a way of, or do you think then you would have to?
Like for the outreach program? I guess like my thing against like charging for outreach programs is because it is like trying to like reach out to the like next generation of students to like get them interested in STEM fields. Like they might come from like the lower side of income. So it would just like, I feel like charging income to like those kind of families would make it kind of harder for them to come and wouldn't help like bridge that gap. But any other questions? No?
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Yeah, as you know, I guess students trying to do a lot of the same things in a lot of different chapters. There's a lot of new chapters, and so there's a lot of startup-related issues, and so sharing those, I think, is going to be a really great benefit to everyone. There are resources at BMES as well for these types of things. We had been working on projects in a box. So best practices in outreach activities, small things with a defined list of materials and how much it costs and instructions on how to do that. We've had tables for that at BMES where student chapters have their project in a box activities for demonstrations. Everybody is listed at BMES. All their chapters are listed on the website, and there's a members-only area for that. And so networking and finding best practices of other chapters doesn't have to just be at these kinds of sessions. So I'd encourage you to reach out to those that you know that are established and use those as networking resources for your own student chapters. So thank you very much for attending. We have our student design competition at 1:45 this afternoon. Encourage you to come out and cheer on the teams for that. And thank you for attending.